Drew McIntyre, one-on-one with Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship seems to be on the horizon. We have talked about how McIntyre, Priest, Punk, those are probably your top three guys surrounding the World Championship picture. And then when Seth Rollins comes back, and then if they decide to add Gunther to the fold. But those are the handful of names that at least for now until the end of the summer, I see really surrounding the World Heavyweight Championship. And as we're looking, Damian Priest defending the World Championship at King and Queen of the Ring may not be on the cards, and I'm fine with that. We're going to have at least 5 matches on that show already, which is about the minimum for premium live events nowadays. Backlash only had 5 matches, no problem with that. So, considering we already have our handful of matches and Damian Priest, outside of Drew McIntyre, doesn't have a set opponent, no real need for him to defend on that show, and I'm fine with it. What they set up on Raw just last night, Damian Priest saying, listen, Drew, you want your title match, you got it. Which that alone, Priest just walking out there and giving McIntyre his world title match, really to me was just that much more Priest moving forward in that inevitable babyface turn, right? Because that's not necessarily something that any member of the Judgment Day would have done. Now Damian Priest marching out there, giving Drew McIntyre a World Heavyweight Championship match as soon as McIntyre's cleared to go. All the more arrows, in my opinion, pointing at Priest being the babyface coming out of that Judgment Day group when there inevitably is more dissension, which I think we all kind of assumed anyway that Priest would be that good guy. But Drew McIntyre, of course, still uncleared to compete. And even if he got cleared within the next few days, I mean, why rush that matchup for King and Queen of the Ring when that's less than 2 weeks away? McIntyre versus Priest, it was the match I was talking about having that at Clash of the Castle. And then it was CM Punk last week on Raw saying, McIntyre, even if I gotta chase you to Scotland, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna get my hands on you. Then I was like, well, listen, maybe they're gonna do Punk and McIntyre at Clash of the Castle in Scotland. But considering we now know 100% we will get Priest versus McIntyre one-on-one for the belt, I think what I originally thought was going to happen is where we're leading towards. More time for Priest to really have some more tension grow with the Judgment Day and build this matchup with Drew McIntyre, and McIntyre to still build his matchup with Punk, which obviously won't be announced at that point, but I think is going to be coming for most likely SummerSlam. I could very much see Drew McIntyre defeating Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship at Clash of the Castle in Scotland. Priest got his world title run. We'll have defended against Jey Uso, a successful one at that point, but there's just larger stories at play. McIntyre winning that world title and Punk going after it. Judgment Day turning on Damian Priest, or whatever the dissension's going to be there that's going to lead us to Priest versus Balor. Now, you could say Priest versus Balor, that more may need the World Championship. McIntyre and Punk, you could sell that without the World Championship. That can main event a premium live event without a World Championship. Very much a case where we see Priest and McIntyre for the World Championship at Clash of the Castle, and CM Punk costs Drew McIntyre the match, and Damian Priest retains the title, and then we go, into Money in the Bank. If CM Punk's ready to go, maybe we get Punk and McIntyre there. Damian Priest still your world champion, but then if Priest leaves Clash of the Castle, still the World Heavyweight Champion. Well, now we have 7-8 weeks from Clash of the Castle until SummerSlam, the beginning of August, for Priest and Balor to build up some tension, because I really do think Priest and Balor more likely now than it was even 6 months ago to happen at WrestleMania. And again, now that I'm saying it out loud, Priest and Balor definitely, I think, probably needs the world title more. And that world title is more of an incentive for Priest and the rest of the Judgment Day to stab Damian Priest in the back. Balor and the rest of the Judgment Day. 1 year ago, Balor was targeting that world championship at Money in the Bank, lost at Damian Priest. At one point, I believe, slid the Money in the Bank briefcase in, and that caused a little bit of a disruption in the matchup. Lost at SummerSlam. CM Punk maybe costing Drew McIntyre the match at Clash of the Castle. And then the Judgment Day turning on Damian Priest and us getting Balor versus Priest at SummerSlam. And, realistically, we could see that and see Damian Priest retain the title, and then see Gunther going after the world title at Bash in Berlin. A lot of people are calling for it. I'm down if it happens. I don't think just because they're in Germany, Gunther needs the challenge for the world title on that night, but considering he's a top candidate, if not the top candidate to win the King of the Ring tournament, going after a world championship kind of seems like the natural progression for Gunther on Monday Night Raw. And as much as I want to see Drew McIntyre have a actual lengthy reign with the world title, and as much as I'd like to see CM Punk win the world championship, we're talking about guys there who, as I mentioned, don't need the world championship for them to main event a premium live event, for the eyes to be on that storyline. It's already a fire-ass storyline with both guys being unable to compete at the current moment. Neither guy's even wrestling, and it's still one of the most intriguing stories on television. So does it really need the world championship? When you got Damian Priest and Finn Balor, obviously people are probably interested in it. It's going to be a solid matchup. But the world championship being on the line, I think, adds more intrigue to that Priest and Balor matchup eventually, and is all the more reason for Damian Priest to be splitting off from Balor, from JD, from Dominic, and whoever Dominic's associating with that week. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I think that's where we head. I think we head towards Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest in Scotland at Clash at the Castle. And listen, maybe CM Punk doesn't necessarily cost Drew McIntyre. Maybe the Judgment Day gets involved just like they did at Backlash, and Priest is heated about it. But one way or another, I could definitely see Damian Priest retaining the world title in Scotland. McIntyre moving more towards into a story with CM Punk. Well, more into their matchup because they're obviously in the heat of the story right now. And maybe Priest focuses on somebody else at Money in the Bank in Toronto in July. Because, I mean, if you're going to do Priest and Balor, at least in my eyes, you're already that close. Just save it for SummerSlam. You can give Priest somebody else for Money in the Bank, whoever that may be. You know, unless they wanted to run him and Finn Balor there, and at SummerSlam, similar to how they did the Balor and Rollins last year. Priest going into Germany at the end of the summer, dropping the world title to Gunther, I could definitely see that world. You know, and then you're looking at Gunther's world title reign, having guys like McIntyre and CM Punk and Seth Rollins at a rematch with Priest, and that's when you do maybe the Ilja Dragunov match. You got a solid list of guys already waiting in the wind for Gunther into the fall, into the end of the year, into WrestleMania next year. Kicking it with Leo in the chat, I think Finn Balor will win Money in the Bank and cash in on Damian Priest, having a full circle moment with that storyline within the Judgment Day. That's not a bad idea. I would not be opposed to that, but I could definitely see Finn Balor being in the handful of names that could actually win Money in the Bank this year. Because you got to think, like, when it comes to Money in the Bank this summer, who's beating Cody Rhodes right now? And if Gunther wins the World Championship, well, who's beating Gunther for that title anytime soon? Like, who's going to be potentially a World Heavyweight Champion over the next 12 months from July to next July? Hell, Ilja Dragunov could be a top candidate to win the briefcase and maybe not cash in impromptu, just like we are all used to with the Money in the Bank, whether the opponent's weakened. But I'll tell you a great idea for the Money in the Bank this year. If there's really nobody who they're like, want to have win that matchup and definitely win the world title or WWE title, no doubt about it. But I would not be opposed to Ilja Dragunov winning the Money in the Bank briefcase this year and challenging Gunther RVD style. Just like RVD announced his matchup ahead of time. One of, two guys to ever do that in 2006 said, listen, Cena, we're going to have this matchup and we're going to do it at ECW One Night Stand. I would love to see Ilja Dragunov win the briefcase. Gunther wins the world title in Germany at the end of the summer. And then you could save it for WrestleMania 41, but if they have different plans, pick your premium live event. Dragunov says, Gunther, I will see you on this date at this PLE. We'll finally run this match back at that time. Because Dragunov's a fighter, man. Dragunov wants the war. Dragunov announcing his cash in ahead of time. I mean, that's a very Ilja Dragunov thing to do if you've watched his stuff in NXT UK and NXT. So I think that'd be awesome. And then Dragunov in that case doesn't even have to win. It could be a failed Money in the Bank cash-in, but damn, Dragunov's going to have his coming out party in a sense, because by that time he's already going to be very established on the main roster, but going to have that huge match with Gunther in a main event of a PLE for the World Heavyweight Championship. And then even if he comes up short, it's like, damn, Dragunov was right there. He's going to be there one day. And then the Money in the Bank kind of benefits Dragunov without even having to put the title on him. That's just an idea.